Okay, I got it on my end. All right, so it looked like we had about 5 breakout rooms. I'm not sure if you guys remember what breakout room you were assigned to, but what if we start with breakout room 1? Any thoughts with do's and don'ts? Maybe we'll start with the do's first. Okay, so if we don't remember what breakout rooms we're in, how about we just hear? Yeah.
I was in breakout room 1, and I'm not going to share anything first because, this is my club and I don't want to be talking the whole time. But Stephen had a really good idea. He had a lot of good points in the beginning. So I don't know if you want to share those. Sorry for calling you out.
Yeah, sure. So I mentioned that, so someone else brought up that you should do your research and show that you have genuine interest in the actual research that the professor is doing. But along with that, I said that you should try, if you can, to explain what kind of assets you can bring to the lab group. It doesn't have to be a hard skill, although if it is a hard skill, then definitely include that. It could also be something as simple as you believe you're a really hard worker, or you're a good leader, or you work really well with teams, or you're a quick learner. So yeah, try and give a reason why they should want you in their lab group.
Did you guys have any don'ts? Okay, well, how about we move on to, were you going to say something, Nandini?
Yeah, I was going to say that Stephen actually said that you should make sure that you always stay formal and you're very, very polite, because even though Lehigh professors are always willing to give opportunities, you still need to be respectful.
Okay, that makes sense. You want to move to another group? How about group 2? Any thoughts?
So I was in group 2, and I thought Alex brought up some really great points. So Alex, if you want to share, or I can help share for you.
So I said that I did a lot of do's, but it could also count as a don't. So to fill the don't column, I don't beat around the bush. Just be clear.
Okay.
In what your purpose is. I don't think a professor would want to read 300 word email about your life story wanting to join their lab. That can always come out later. But another do that I think is kind of news is I've talked to professors in the past, and they recommended, if you are unsure if you want to join the lab, you can always just ask and contact them first about shadowing at their lab for a day or an afternoon.
Yeah.
To see what if you like their lab or not.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, going off of what Alex was saying, another good thing to maybe ask if you're not sure if the lab is completely a right fit would be sitting in on a lab meeting, and just really getting a chance to talk to the PI and talk to other lab members.
What about another group? Any other thoughts out there? Maybe we'll focus on the don'ts. What did you guys come up with?
I think I was in group 3. But something that I just kind of came up with, which maybe like combines some things that people have touched on already, but like make sure you're interested and like you've read up. So like for don't send like a mass generic email to a bunch of professors. Like make sure you reach out to someone who has work that you're actually interested in and like that you've like read up about.
Okay. Any other groups want to contribute anything before we move on?
My group, we kind of discussed like you have to be passionate. So like this shouldn't just be doing something you're doing to put on your resume. It's also a huge time commitment. So just making sure that like you're doing it for the right reasons.
Great. Yeah, these are all, fantastic responses, and it makes sense, and it sort of falls into the scope of what the SGAC team put together for you guys tonight. So shall we proceed forward?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So let's talk about how you actually find a research opportunity here at Lehigh University. One of the first things that you can do is really just leverage your network. You guys know people, right? And you guys are friends with your peers who are also undergraduate students here who may be doing research too. Interact with them. Ask them how they got involved in their current lab. And I'm sure, they would like for you to join the lab too. And they might be aware of seniors who are graduating soon. And those positions have to be replenished with, younger students. So there's always opportunities that are arising. So, be active, interact with your peers, ask them questions too. In addition to that, professors love when you guys stay after class, you ask them more detailed questions about content that they're delivering to you. So a lot of the points you just hit on, when you show that passion and when you show that interest, it really goes a long way. I can assure you of that. I've seen it before, with students who I've interacted with in the past. It's not really more of a favorability thing, but it is, you will try to help those students anytime they ask you for anything, because, they have showed interest in what you do and they want to learn, which always looks good. So take advantage of people in your network. And we'll also talk about how we can expand the network too. What the SJC team is going to do for you guys, they're going to populate their website with YouTube videos from individual PIs from the Department of Biological Sciences. So far, we have 7 individuals who decided to who create these YouTube videos in the past. And basically what it does, it entails what they're up to in the lab. So it's the scope of the research, what they're doing, what their interests are. So you could read and learn more about what they do through their individual websites, and then also on these videos. I should also mention all the content that is being provided for you tonight. So you don't have to worry about jotting everything down as far as notes. This presentation will be available, and then a bunch of other things that the team has acquired for you too. So feel free during your own time, if you'd like to start going through some of these websites and these YouTube videos to learn more about these individual research platforms, please do so. All right, and this is really interesting. The team put together an undergraduate research forum. This is a survey that was filled out by Lehigh faculty members. So these are members who are on campus, and they were asked a specific question that really revolved around undergraduate research feedback. What do professors want in you, right? So now you're looking at from the other perspective of things. So we can start by what types of experiences and technical skills do you look for? And when we say do you, that means the professor and undergraduate researchers. And we have there's really quite a few responses, and we just took a few of them. You'll be provided, I think, with the whole form and all the information that's associated with that. So the first comment is this: prior experience and technical skills are not expected nor necessarily important. Now that's fantastic, right? We all have to step in the door at some point in time in research, and no one's going to expect you to know everything. So if that, if you feel some sort of trepidation associated with that, just throw that out the window. So for a first year, a sophomore undergraduate researcher joining the lab, it's not expected you guys are going to be trained how to pick up a pipette. I can assure you of that. Although if you do have existing skills, some of the techniques you will pick up in the lab classes and courses that are offered here, that will be beneficial. So that's something that you should tout when you're contacting these professors. Hey, I've done PCR, I've done gene cloning in these other, experiments. The second professor said, any research or practical experience that relates to the work we do in the lab is a plus. So it is a benefit, but it's not always necessary. So it falls in line with what professor number one said. And what is more important is to demonstrate a willingness to learn and a commitment. Science most often involves repetitive, tedious tasks for extended periods of time, and that cannot be more true. That's just how science works. You learn from your failed experiments. As long as you're committed, as long as you show an interest, and as long as you're passionate about what you're doing, that's going to work well. It's going to look good in your favor. And the reason for that is, think about who a PI is, right? A PI is a professor who has a lot of experience. Some of them, they have more experience than the years you've been on this planet. And they've been working on specific research questions for countless years, right? They go to bed thinking about the research questions and they wake up thinking about those same research questions. So it literally runs through their veins. And they are so eager, they're so passionate about what they're doing. It's nice if it's reciprocated. So it's fantastic when there's a student who shows that, that relative same level of interest, or they want to learn. And that's really all it takes. Again, you don't have to be a brilliant student who knows every single experiment known to man. It doesn't work like that. We just want you to be passionate and make a commitment to learning. Another professor literally said none. So he doesn't expect anything of you. Basically, as soon as you join a lab, you will be trained and taught, how to think scientifically and answer scientific questions in different ways. The next question is, what qualities do you look for in undergraduate researchers? Goes back to what we just spoke about and some of the comments you guys made during the breakout room sessions: motivation, initiative, straightforward and open conversational style, lack of a sense of entitlement. It's okay if you don't know everything, and no one expects you to. And you should always keep in mind that, the professors who are running these labs, they work really hard on writing grants and bringing in money that could fund the lab. So when you just walk into the lab, you should be respectful of that. And you should always be mindful that there's so much effort and work that goes into it. Take good notes, ask questions. If you don't know something, please admit it. And, you want to ask questions literally on everything. If you're putting together some sort of reaction and you have 6 reagents, right, you should be asking the questions, well, what are these reagents? Why are they being added in a specific order to this cocktail? And what do each one of them do, right? You want to ask questions about everything. And I think more times than not, you'll be assigned to a graduate student. Sometimes they're postdocs in the lab, or it might be a senior level undergraduate student. So you will be taken under someone's wing. So ask questions, right? So that means be motivated, honest, respectful, and be curious about the research that you're actually conducting. Reliability, dedication, enthusiasm, and commitment, right? These are all terminologies that make sense, right? These are what professors are looking for. It's coming directly from professors' mouths. What are common mistakes that undergraduate researchers make when trying to get into research? Not taking care to craft their email messages. For instance, it's too informal, right? You don't want to just say, hey, what's up? Can I do some research in your lab next semester, right? You want to be formal. You want to show a high level of interest. And there are different ways you could do that. And the team put together a really nice template. And then in addition to that, right, just the use of language, right? And don't use like LOL. Make sure you write words out fully, not how you would write them on Twitter or on some social media platforms, right? All things that make sense, but you have to do it. And I've seen it myself that, students don't always do that. You should ask for help. There are students that will find themselves sort of digging a hole, and they may set themselves back weeks or months with research because they didn't ask for help when they needed it. And they followed out a result that was incorrect because of wrong interpretation, right? These things happen. So if you need help, you should always ask for help. If you're feeling lost, there are plenty of ways to get answers, right? And that's, go directly to the PI, There are other PIs in the department too. You could contact professors. I'm always willing and open for a conversation. So please keep these things in mind. Not showing up when expected, right? That's a big thing. If you make a commitment to a professor, and we'll talk about, hours that are expected of you, you should make sure you show up, right? And, everyone understands there are going to be extenuating circumstances, and that's perfectly fine. But if, it becomes a recurring theme, then, that's a big no-no. Emailing professors to do research in the labs as if this is a possibility. Sort of like it's just like you're taking a lab course, right? So research in a lab is not a lab course. There's a huge difference from when you take your BIOS 42, your genetic lab courses, right? When you do that, you're giving essentially a script and a protocol and reagents, and all you have to do is just mix things up. When you go into a research lab, you have to be mindful that you're going to be doing independent and original research, right? A lot of the questions your PIs are asking are questions that people don't have answers to, right? And that's why their work is being funded. So not only are you doing really original research, but you're working on, you may be able to lead to a co-author manuscript, which is going to look very favorably for you when you're applying for professional schools or going onto the job market. And this money is coming from the NIH, NSF, really cool platforms out there. And another really important comment that this particular professor made a note of, you can really impress a faculty member. You can impress that professor when doing that. And guess what? They have an incredible network of people that they've met over the years. And if you're looking to go to NYU for a PhD program, right? They may know a professor there who is in the admissions department. You never know. So you always want to put yourself in the best light. So keep these points in mind. Time commitment, a very important question. Most professors in this survey, they said 8 to 10 hours per week. This is obviously something that will have to be decided upon with the professor once you make a commitment to work with them. They're going to ask you how many hours a week you can commit. They may ask you for your schedule too. So be ready to answer those questions. But in general, that's what they're looking for, 8 to 10 hours per week. And I'd say that's most likely minimum. And the team put together this really cool, I don't know, what do you call this? Is there a specific name for this?
I have no idea.
Yeah, it's a word something. I can't remember the exact name, but it's really cool, right? So they took a lot of the words that were used in the survey, and it puts the words that are the biggest. These were words that were used the most, right? And what's jumping out right in front of you? Reliable, right? It doesn't say you have to be Einstein. It doesn't say you have to know every single experiment known to man. They just want you to be reliable, right? There's going to have to be an accountability. They want you to be motivated because they're motivated. They want you to feel energetic because they're energetic, right? Dedicated, show curiosity, right? All these terms that we've been discussing already. This is what professors are looking from you guys. So it's not this black box, right? We're trying to be as open as possible. And I think at this point, the team put together an example email that they will show. Yes, someone just mentioned word cloud. Yeah, I think that's right.
Does everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so this is our example email template. And what we did is we went through the entire email, starting with the subject, the greeting, the opening statement, and at the end, we have an example email. So I'm going to go through it just a little bit. The subject line, you always want to keep it short and clear, just like we were saying before. You want to get straight to the point. The greeting, you want to work in a formal manner. And don't be general with it, be very specific. The opening statement, there's an example of it right here. You want to introduce yourself and let them get to know you a little. The purpose, here's something that a lot of people get tripped up on. You shouldn't say things that make it look like you just want to do it to get it put on your resume. You want to express genuine interest in the lab, and that will express to the PI that you actually want to be there and give you a better chance at getting into their lab. And then you also want to explain why you're interested in their lab, why their lab is so interesting to you as opposed to the other PIs that are out there. So what you could do to do this is read specific papers and cite that in your email to them. Tell them what you found fascinating about the article that you read, why you want to work with the stuff that they've been working with. And you can also state any personal experience that relates to the work that they've been doing, although you don't have to have personal experience like we just went over. And then to conclude, you finish it by thanking the researcher for their time, again, being very formal. And you can express interest in meeting with them to discuss opportunities. You can also include your resume or any work that you've already done so that they can get to know you better. And this will make you stand out a little so that they could put experience to the name. And then this is the example at the bottom. I'm not going to read it through, but this is going to be posted on our website. So you could go back to it and use it to draft your own email.
Great. Yeah, that was fantastic. Yeah, the information that they put together for you guys is brilliant and it makes perfect sense. I'll actually just bring you in on one little point that I've told some students along the way. So sometimes there can be a stigma with individuals who want to go to medical school, as some PIs, they're going to recognize that that student is only wanting to do research and perform research in their lab because they want a letter of recommendation from a researcher. And I can tell you this 100%, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, right? It makes sense. You should get that experience and you should do that. But there can be a stigma associated with that. And I've seen that, not necessarily here at Lehigh University, but at other places. And sometimes there's a lack of passion. So that's something just to be aware of. And, you may not have to state it specifically in that first email that you want to be, a physician at some point. Maybe that's okay, but it's worthwhile thinking about. And the reason I tell you that, if that PI is in between you and another student, and that other student has expressed that they want to go on for a PhD in research, they want to go join a company and industry after the fact, they're going to probably think that they could help that other student better than you because you want to go to medical school. So please keep that in mind. Again, it has nothing to do with Lehigh University, as I haven't experienced or seen that here, but I have seen it other places. So you don't have to start off your first email addressing the professor as I want to go to medical school in the future. That may not be the best thing to do. Just keep that in mind. All right, how to find research opportunities outside of Lehigh University. We thought it was worthwhile to go through a lesson of doing this for a variety of reasons, because a lot of these ways are very unconventional and probably a little different than what a lot of you have thought about. And I have written, I can't tell you how many letters of recommendation for students who are seeking, summer internships at places outside of Lehigh. So I thought, what's best than actually, going through this together. The National Science Foundation has a wealth of different opportunities that exist. So it's something called the Research Experiences for Undergraduate Program, REU, and it supports active research participation by undergraduate students in any of the following areas of research funded by the NSF. And I'm going to jump on there real quick and show you the website briefly and how to tackle this and look for an opportunity. So if you click on that link, here is the website. And these are all the different disciplines that pop up, right? It can range from astronomical sciences to materials research, polar programs, which you probably go to Alaska, which sounds pretty cool. Social behavior, economic sciences. So a wealth of different disciplines that you could choose among. I'm going to click on biological sciences because that's probably most relevant to what everyone here is involved with. Once you do that, it gives you site information, site location, contact information, other content that's important and associated with that. The easiest thing to do is just to click on Excel, download the Excel file, open it up, and here are all the different opportunities at other universities that have some sort of internship program, right? Alabama State, Cornell University, Harvard University, Johns Hopkins, there's a whole list of them. And this Excel file has contact information, which ranges from phone numbers and emails. I mean, there's a ton of information associated with this. So once you identify, hey, I want to go to so-and-so university this summer, I want to mix it up, I want to maybe go closer to home. One of these universities may be close to where you grew up, and you may want to do that. So there's nothing wrong with that. And a lot of students are applying to these type of programs. I've had a couple students who applied probably to 20 different programs all around the country. And I'll show you a couple other things I think are important when you're looking through these. I want to go back to my alma mater, University of Florida. I'm going to click on this briefly. So not only, where you want to go for the research what's a university, but also what's provided for you is important. So this particular program, the labs are literally right on the beach in St. Augustine. And I'm aware of some individuals who attended these labs many, many years ago. And I remember them saying in between experiments, they would go surfing, they go to the beach. Like there are other ways to have fun too, in addition to just doing your research. So on top of that and looking for location, I thought this sentence was rather poignant. These two sentences: undergraduates who qualify for this program, they receive a competitive stipend. That means they're going to give you money and assistance with travel to going to, if you're going to fly from here to Florida, they'll probably pay for your airfare. And, if you are awarded this internship, you'll have an opportunity to stay on-site housing, all of which is covered by the program, which is fantastic, right? So these are the type of things I want you guys to look for, right? So identify when the deadlines are. Is there a stipend and room and board that's going to be associated with it, right? Why look for opportunities where, you're going to have to pay out of pocket? Doesn't make sense. At least start with opportunities where they can award you with money so you don't have to pay for anything, and maybe you'll actually make a few bucks from it. And then other questions asked, right? Who are you going to be working with? Will you be working with the PI directly, other undergraduate students, maybe grad students, postdocs, all relevant and important questions to ask. So a wealth of opportunities under this NSF umbrella. So take advantage of it, peruse the website, right? It's already too late in most cases with probably, I think most of these internships that are offered through there for this upcoming summer, but you should start thinking about next summer, right? Start planning ahead. And that brings us to, how do you put yourself out there, right? We all have to leave our comfort zone at some point, and now is a really good time for all of us to learn how to do that. So in order to get yourself out there, you have to present yourself in the best light, right? You're going to have a resume or a CV. A CV is really a scientist's way of what we call a resume, at least in academia. If you don't have a LinkedIn account, I recommend you to sign up for a LinkedIn account soon. And cover letters, these type of things, they should be drafted and made based on the opportunities you're seeking. I'll talk about that in a second. So make sure your content is up to date, it's accurate, spell checked, right? That's very important. Should be reflective of your career goals and tailored to the individual job description. I've applied for both teaching and research positions in my career. If I was applying for a teaching position, I was going to make sure that my CV stated my teaching experiences first, followed by research, because that was what was most important based on the job description. For other research positions I applied for, I put the research content first, followed by teaching experiences, right? So make sure you draft it in a way, and it could almost be subconscious for whoever that reviewer or that viewer is going to be, whoever's reading that, making the decision. You wanted to put it right out there, right in front. I want to pursue this opportunity because I want to be a teacher, and this is why. Right. And drafting a CV or a resume and putting that important content first goes a long way. I can assure you, if you're giving someone a 10-page CV, they're not going to read through all 10 pages, but they may glance through the first couple. That's why it's important. There's also something else that you guys should be aware of. Most companies use something called an applicant tracking system to screen applicants, and it helps them identify if they're a good match. Literally, it's based on sometimes just a few keywords. I have a LinkedIn account, and I've had it for many years. I have lots of different research experiences. 99% of the times when I've been contacted by recruiters, it's based on my experience using adeno-associated viruses, which are used for gene therapy purposes. It's a really hot vector system that's used in that context. And a lot of companies have been built based on that platform. So they find me very easily because I have the words adeno-associated viruses literally just on my LinkedIn account. That's it. Sometimes you just have to identify what those keywords are and what these companies are looking for. If you could do that, then they're going to be coming after you. I assure you of that. There's a resume test that you could use using this Zip Job website. It'll help you with formatting, keyword optimization. So all things I was just discussing. And formatting resumes is critically important. And there's a wealth of information out there. Lehigh offers through the Career Center, I think resume help with different tips and advice. Maybe they proofread and edit it for you. I think the SJC team will put together a workshop in the future that'll help you craft the CV and do's and don'ts for that as well. So that'll be a really nice topic to look forward to too. Other places to look for internships and research opportunities: Indeed.com, higheredjobs.org. These are fantastic websites. They're very easy to use. Just set up an account and you could put in your parameters based on certain criteria. Discipline, right? What discipline, what opportunities are you looking for? So over here, I wrote a biology internship. So I put it right here in this search, and for where I put Pennsylvania. You can very easily search based on city, state, region. Maybe you just want to stick in the Northeast part of the United States. So there are ways to do that. If you want to work at a specific company or look for an internship at Pfizer or Moderna, you could bias your searches that way too. So I put these simple terms in here. I clicked find jobs, and there are 10 pages worth of jobs that showed up. And the second one was a medical laboratory scientist intern, which would be absolutely perfect for a lot of you to do over the summertime, potentially, or maybe even during the semester, if you look for opportunities on campus and it doesn't work out, which, it's very competitive and it may not work out. So it doesn't mean it won't work in the future, but you want to do something in the meantime. So this might be a very, an opportunity that is going to suit you and fit you well. Higheredjobs.org. I use this site in particular. I used multiple ones when I was looking for jobs a few years ago, and actually never removed myself from the site. So I still get updates on a regular basis, and you could set it up to get email blast daily, weekly, monthly. This is just a quick example. Here's my email account, and I just searched for higher ed jobs. These are all in the 420s, so April 20 something, 2021. You can see there are quite a few emails coming in, and these are all the different matches that fit my criteria. And not all of them are always relevant, but in a lot of cases they are. And it's good to get yourself on these sites so you can start finding out what these employers are looking for in a candidate. And for myself, it's also important. I could find out what other academic institutions are looking for in a professor, and I could start building my skill sets in different ways here. And not that I'm necessarily looking to leave Lehigh. I love Lehigh, but I could become a better professor because of that. So join these sites early, find out what is out there. You want to start doing this really far in advance, and it's going to give you a competitive advantage. I can assure you of that. So it's never too early to sign up for these websites. And we have some unconventional methods of landing research opportunities. I told you guys to sign up for LinkedIn. You could simply search on LinkedIn, biology summer internship. These are opportunities that popped up. There are quite a few of them. This one is a summer internship at Takeda, which is a high-tech biotech company up in Boston. There's another opportunity down here at Mass General, which is a Harvard affiliated hospital, and a summer student internship here at Maryland, right? So you could click on these. There's going to be a wealth of information that's associated with each of these internships. It'll tell you when the deadlines are, if there's a stipend associated with it, and anything else that you may want to inquire about. There's generally a contact information too. So that's one way. You can search directly on LinkedIn itself. Another way, reach out to the recruiter, right? People are literally paid a lot of money to find talent. So why don't you go straight to the recruiter first? Because they're looking for people, right? And maybe you're a perfect fit, who knows? So in this example, I said, okay, well, why don't we just type in Pfizer recruiter, because I want to go work at Pfizer. So I typed that in, and I have 3 hits that came up, and there's more than that. We had Mitzi, Allison, and John. I don't know who any of these people are. However, my network, particularly with Allison, right? I apparently connected to 12 people who are also connected with Allison. So there are actually contacts and connections there, and you could just reach out to the person directly. And maybe, if you don't, or if you do, let's just say if you reach out to the person, you don't hear from them, you could also contact someone within your network and say, hey, have you been in contact with Allison recently? And maybe they have, and they could say, hey, Allison, can you contact Larry? He's looking for a position. I thought maybe you could help him out, right? So it's all about building your network. So go directly to the recruiters. And this is the method I'm going to tell you right now is something that's really out of people's comfort zones, but it shouldn't be. Professors, scientists, high-level scientists, they love when people ask them about their research. And maybe it's a narcissistic point of view, but we love it. So this is called a 15-minute coffee session. And what this entails, an example I want to give, let's just say I'm a student at Boston University, and Boston is a hub for lots of biotech industry, and I want to get my foot in the door and I want to learn more about research. It's something called a 15-minute coffee session. So what I could do, I could contact a research director. The example I'm giving here is Moderna, or it could be Pfizer, it could be any company you want. And the reason I said research director, instead of going through HR, when you go through HR, your resume and all your information gets stacked on a list or a pile of other people. If you go directly to the research director, generally these are individuals who are running the research component of the lab, and they hire people to work in the lab, and they have a lot of pull and they have a lot of say. So my recommendation is you could just type in research director and Moderna, and we have multiple hits. You could reach out to one of these people individually, send an email, introduce yourself. We'll talk about that in a second. And you could ask them if they'd be willing to meet up with you. And you guys are young, so maybe you aren't in that situation to do that just yet. But the thought process is you could ask them for a short coffee session, offer to buy them a cup of coffee. Ask them for maybe 15 minutes of their time, and you just want to inquire more about what they're doing. You want to learn more about their field, and you don't have to say you want to get your foot in the door. You just want to talk about their research and make it interesting for them as well. And here is an example email that you could write to a director in industry. So, dear Dr. X, my name is Larry Tartaglia, and I'm currently an undergraduate student at Boston University majoring in biotechnology. I have a very strong interest in learning more about the biotech sector, and I came across your information on LinkedIn. To my understanding, you are currently a director at Moderna within the vaccinology department. This is so fascinating to me because I've always had a strong desire to learn more about vaccine treatments for disease. Your efforts on the COVID-19 vaccine front are nothing short of extraordinary. I would love to have a chance to chat with you for a few minutes to pick your brain on everything vaccines. Would you be willing to have a phone, Zoom chat at a time that's convenient for you? So notice that I didn't specifically state, hey, are you hiring? Or are you bringing people in for summer internships? I didn't state that, right? I'm trying to build a contact without anything, preconceived in their minds that I'm just necessarily trying to, get something for my own advantage, right? There's nothing wrong with just reaching out to someone and asking them questions and learning more. And then depending on how the conversation goes, you might get to a point where like, oh my gosh, like I love what you've described. I love the research you're doing. Can I work in your lab with you? Is there a way I can do that? And they may say, yes, Larry, you can do it. And I can match you up with one of my senior scientists in the lab for this summer. It's not a paid internship, but we'd still love to bring you on. Or they may say no, and there's nothing wrong with that, but they may like you. And they know other people who are directors or associate directors or who are hiring in industry too. And they make recommendations that way. I do those type of things all the time for past students and sometimes current students. There's a student in my Bios 41 class who's spoken to one of my friends who's in the industry sector, right? So there's nothing wrong with putting yourself out there, and that's really the key. You have to take advantage of the resources that are available, and it's okay to be aggressive, right? Be aggressive in a very respectful manner. So I'm going to leave you guys with this for this portion of the presentation. So most importantly, any fear you have, we need you to break that down. Do not be fearful. All these people who you're interacting with, these professors, these higher ups at companies, they were all a student sitting in the same seat that you sit in. So get rid of that fear. You're good enough to do what they're doing too. And Lehigh, we wouldn't have accepted you to come here if we didn't think you were a high achieving student who's going to be successful in the future. It's that simple. So choose to be confident. You are a superstar. And then most importantly, be yourself, right? You don't need to change who you are. You don't need to show you're a different representative of who you are to, for a specific job. Be who you are. Stay within, that comfort zone of you as a person. So with that said, I'd be happy to answer questions now, or we may save that to another portion. We'll see what the team thinks.
Yeah, thanks for that, Larry. Yeah, I think we can go into the Q&A session now. We actually have Dr. Miwa here with us today to participate in the Q&A session. Dr. Miwa, would you like to take a couple minutes to just introduce yourself?
Hello. Hi, thank you for the invitation.
No
Yes,
problem.
so, yeah, it's nice to be here. I'm a associate professor in the biological sciences department here at Lehigh, and I did my graduate work at Rockefeller University in New York City, and I discovered this gene that I still study that regulates learning and memory. And I'm trying to understand how the gene works and how we can use that understanding to help people with memory disorders, for instance, Alzheimer's disease or other neurodegenerative disorders. And so, yeah, I have a lab with graduate students and undergraduates. So, I mean, I guess I'm open to any questions you guys might have.
Yeah, so if you guys have any questions, feel free to just go right ahead. Anybody at all? It could even just be about maybe how Dr. Miwa or Dr. Tartaglia got involved in research, or you can even ask a question for one of us, like, how did we get involved in research at Lehigh? There's so many different ways, so many different opportunities.
Yeah.
Roughly how many undergraduate students would one research lab take at a time?
Oh, that varies depending on the lab. So some labs just have 1 or 2 students. I tend to have more. I usually have, 10 or something like that. But it kind of depends on the nature of the research. So the research that I do lends itself more to having more undergraduate students. So it's completely dependent on the professor. And taking undergraduate students is really a voluntary thing. But it's really nice to have good undergrads doing research in the lab. It can be a lot of fun. So it is variable, but I mean, really the important thing is, try to figure out what's interesting to you. So the best way to be successful is to have curiosity and interest in what you're doing. But this doesn't just apply to research in a laboratory, but anything in life. But in a laboratory, it really, really helps a lot. So think about your interest and then try to find professors whose research matches your interests. I mean, are there any people in the group here that are interested in doing research but haven't found a lab yet or not really sure how to start?
Yeah, raise your hand if you're in that group.
Yeah, I can't see all the people. Are their hands raised? Yeah, okay. Yeah, so if you want to do research, I mean, okay, so over the summer, there are these summer research experiences, but they're quite competitive. So all the undergrads all over the country are vying for these few positions. However, you can make yourself more competitive if you have research experience that you're conducting in the lab at your home university. So it's never really too soon to start doing research in the laboratory. If you know that that's what you want to do, you can start early. Like I like to take students when they're really young because it takes some time to train. So when a student approaches me and they're like seniors, it's a little bit harder. But so if you think that you want to get one of these competitive positions, try to get into one of the labs at Lehigh. And that'll be like a good stepping stone. And a lot of my really great students still might not get the summer positions. But just the process of trying for them, like kind of motivates them to do very well in the research projects over the year. Does anyone have a question about how to go about getting into a lab at Lehigh?
I was just curious where you even find information about, like, is there a website where the different PIs are listed and maybe links to information about their current research?
Right. So the Department of Biological Sciences has, well, all departments will have a listing of their faculty, and then under their names, there'll be a link to their research. So for instance, if you were to Google Lehigh Biological Sciences, you would get to the Biological Sciences Department main page and then look for faculty. So there'll be, if you've gone there, you probably would look under undergraduate links. But in this case, you would want to look under faculty, and then you'll see a listing of something like 23 faculty members, and they all have links. They should all have links to their own research. And I'm talking about biological sciences, but there are other great departments. There's bioengineering, psychology, mechanical engineering, physics. So I'm just talking about my department, but there are a lot of great researchers all over Lehigh. So you can check out all their department websites.
Julie, what ways do most students contact you regarding opportunities to work in your lab? Is it through email, staying after class?
It's always email, or 99% of the time it's email. So in the survey that you sent to us, I wrote, there was a question, what is the most common mistake? And what I wrote is something about the way that email is written.
Oh, yeah.
So, so for instance, the email that you showed was very well written. It said, dear Dr. So-and-so, and explaining your interest and how, you could, explaining your interests and how it relates to their interests. Okay, so a common mistake would be, let's say, making a very informal email. Hey, doctor, I'm interested in research. Can you call me back, or hit me back or something? That might be an exaggeration, but I've had emails that are almost this informal. So taking the time to write the email is very critical, because although it's very subtle, you can kind of tell the students who are motivated, who took the time to think about their interests and how you would fit into that interest. You can kind of tell that even through this opening email. So that's kind of like where I spent a lot of time or thought about what you really want, what you want to get out of it, and how you would contribute into the laboratory that you're interested in joining.
Right. I mean, it's a first impression that they're making. So it's important to make a really good first impression. Do you ever have students who cite your manuscripts and they'll discuss a little piece of it and say they would love to work on this aspect of the project if that's available?
Yeah, sometimes they've read a little bit about my research and they can talk about it, and that's really, really good because it definitely shows motivation and interest.
Right.
So that's a super positive. So yeah, rather than having kind of like blanketing all the professors, it might be better just to target the ones that are doing the research that is interesting to you.
Right.
So I really only like students to have interest in what I'm doing. I can teach how to pipette, how to do experiments, how to analyze data. The one thing that I can't do is give someone curiosity. I mean, that's something that has to come from within.
And I think that's one of the most
there.
Yeah, and that's a very common theme from the results of that survey that most professors say too, right? They want you to have a general interest and be excited about what they're doing. And I told the students that, you go to bed thinking about your research and you wake up thinking about your research, and just runs through your veins. And professors want to, see that, reciprocate it in some light with their students who are working with them. They want them to be excited too. So you're hearing that, guys, from a professor who's been doing research for a while and really great research too, and who takes on a lot of undergraduate students, right? These are important themes that you should pay attention to.
Definitely. I mean, I study learning, so I think a lot about what are the conditions that really allow for better learning. And because it's part of my research, but, and then, dopamine is like a really good molecule. It helps us, it gives that rewarding feeling. And, our brains will release dopamine and give us this nice feeling of accomplishment when we get our reward. But it's released by our neurons. So everyone's brain is wired differently. So you want to have intrinsic motivation and really enjoy what you're doing. You know, I mean, yeah, it's good to have it on your resume, but if you're just getting into a lab to get it and to put it onto your resume, you're not, and you're not interested. It's going to show in the quality of your work. So it's not going to have the benefit that you think it will have. You might not get as stellar a recommendation, all these different things. But if it's something that you enjoy, and then, you know, you're intrinsically motivated and you're getting that dopamine by doing the activity, then, you know, it's a win-win. Yeah, you're doing something that's very important, getting that experience, but you're kind of training your brain and you're going to learn the subject matter. You're going to be more motivated to learn more about the subject matter. So it's all this positive feedback loop, but it all starts from that curiosity. So, you know, that's really important to think about.
And you made a good point earlier. You said that translates to life too, and that's really important. You want to choose something that makes you happy, and you know, taking these attributes that Dr. Miwa's discussing. You know, students, you should really pay close attention to that, because this is somebody who hires other students. Maybe I can ask you another question, and if you don't want to answer it, you don't have to. Do you ever get students who contact you who say, I want to go to medical school and I want to get a research experience because of that? I've seen in other locations, not Lehigh particularly, that there could be a negative stigma associated with students who solely want to go to medical school, and they pretty much state that they just want to get a research experience. Have you seen that before? Any thoughts on that?
So I personally would not disqualify someone that wanted to go to medical school and wanted to get research experience, if they were sincere in their interest in doing research. So the medical students can be very good students in the lab. And, you know, the students that want to go to graduate school, they're maybe have even more motivation than students that want to go to medical school. But, you know, they're kind of few and far between. So the one thing that I don't like is if medical students pretend that they want to go to graduate school and they say, oh, I really think I want to go to graduate school, but they really just want to go to medical school. Just be honest. Just be honest about who you are, as you said. I've had some wonderful students who are pre-med, and actually one very good student who graduated last year is now a technician at Columbia University, but doing really, really high level neuroscience research, and, you know, intends to go to medical school, but he took that time out and he, you know, loves research. So I think, you know, wanting to go to medical school, it's good. You know, these are you know, you pre-meds are motivated students and, you know, willing to put the work in, and just be honest and upfront about it, and realize that we're taking time to train you. So you don't want, you know, you want to like respect the time that we're taking to train you, and then put in your good effort, and it'll be a successful experience.
Thank you for that, Dr. Miwa. I think I personally learned a lot from all of your insights. So thank you for joining us today. I think with that, we can conclude the Q&A session. Thanks, Larry, for helping us out with the whole workshop. Definitely couldn't have done it without you. This meeting is recorded and will be posted on our website, so you can refer to it whenever you'd like. Larry's PowerPoint will also be available on our website, along with the list of research programs offered by Lehigh and the guidelines that Penny showed for emailing PIs. And with that, I hope you guys have a great rest of the semester. And we hope to see you guys in person next year. So please don't leave our club.
Thank you for coming.
Bye, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
All right.